The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and Your Sports Network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. Anthony Hartwig with you. No Ty Martell today. He's got some college stuff to take care of, so I got you locked in here from 1 to 2. We have a good show for you. We're going to talk to Mark Baker, the head coach of the Newton Falls girls basketball team, in about 30 seconds as soon as we get this intro over with. But we also have Matt Britton coming on, the head coach of the Mooney boys soccer team that punched their ticket to state. He's coming on at 1:30 a little bit later on. We'll also have a recap of all the weekend's action, bunch of playoff scores to go over, and soccer and football and volleyball to talk about. So we're going to have a fun show, but we will start with Mark Baker, the head coach of the Newton Falls girls basketball team. Mark, coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you guys.
All right, we want to start this season preview with a reflection of last year. And I know during the offseason you've probably been watching a lot of film on last year's team, especially the returning players and things that you can build off of. So what kind of things did you see from this team last year that you think you can build on and grow in coming into this season?
Last year we dealt with youth. One of the things that you really just can't teach is experience. And we played a lot of girls last year that really didn't have little to no varsity experience at all. That's going to translate to this year is quite a few girls that got varsity time last year are back. We didn't graduate a single senior last year, so you can see already the knowledge of the game and the ability that we've been able to adapt to the speed of the game, going from, there's always a big jump going from the freshman level to the junior varsity level to the varsity level. But I've seen the girls kind of get used to that pace a lot quicker. The pace are quicker in practice as well. We've had a couple scrimmages so far that have gone pretty well. So things are on the up and up for the team here.
I mean, one of the benefits of having so much youth in 1 year is how much it helps you build for the next year. Do you see that? Do you see a lot of last year helping you guys to be a little bit more confident, a little bit more experienced coming into this season?
Yeah, definitely starting to see the difference, just over the summertime in the few things that we were able to do to go to a couple shootouts and participated in a summer league. You could just see the growth that many of the girls had made. And again, we're looking, we're still pretty youthful, to be honest with you. I mean, right now we're only looking at about 3 seniors on the team and quite a few sophomores and juniors in the mix. So still really not, I wouldn't call us overly veteran laced, but definitely got quite a few girls that have some varsity experience. But you can already see the growth that they've made in just a short period of time.
Let's talk about that summer. I know basketball summer is so important for the sport to kind of get you guys ready for the preseason. What kind of things did this program do in the summer, and what was kind of your evaluation of the way the summer went for you guys?
Yeah, typical off season for us. We'll do our lifting and we try to do some things to make ourselves more athletic, to be totally honest with you. We try to spend a lot of time working on individual skill work and shooting, ball handling, getting faster, agility drills and things like that. And we did participate in a summer league in the month of June. We got to go to a couple shootouts. We went down to Mount Union one day. We went down to Malone one day. And that was definitely very beneficial for the girls to get to play against some different teams and see some different, in our league. Obviously, our league is super strong right now on the girls basketball side, but a lot of teams doing similar things. So nice to get outside of the league and see some different things and see different defenses and different offenses that teams run, different styles that teams play. So that was a good exposure for the girls to get to play against a wide variety of different teams.
One of the benefits of team camps like that, other than the X's and O's, of course, team chemistry is really built in those kind of situations. Did you see a lot of that? Did you see a lot of growth in team chemistry over the summer?
You definitely start to see some connections. I'm not a big. We don't run a whole lot of like specific sets for certain people, but the sets that we do run, there's a lot of timing involved, and you could automatically see that the girls didn't necessarily have to process. Okay, I'm supposed to go here and do this. There was a lot more reacting to go on, and the timing of different actions, both offensively and defensively, have improved. So. I would say, I give a lot of credit to a lot of my guards that they're now starting to see things kind of before they take place, and they're able to react to it as opposed to having to process it. And then that 1 second that you're a little bit late on that particular possession makes all the difference. So I see us starting to make more plays that are routine, that are reaction type plays more often.
I want to break down this roster, go over some of the returning players that you think are going to make key impacts, and then maybe some new faces Newton Falls fans should be ready to see this year as well.
Well, we're going to bring back, a couple senior starters, Shelby Fowler, Natalie Albert. Both of them have been playing since they were sophomores, so they're going to have quite a bit to carry on their shoulders. Point guard Danny Drake, this will be her second year as the point guard. Gigi Morgan, another junior that's got a lot of experience over the last year or so, is really starting to be on an upswing. Some names that you're probably maybe not so familiar with. Another thing I'll throw in, Chloe Butler is another one. She's got a shoulder injury right now, but she's made probably one of our best athletes, to be totally honest with you. Some names you're probably not familiar with. Kennedy Howard is posing to be a pretty significant shooting threat for us. Lily Sate, maybe a name you recognize from volleyball, has really come onto the scene with some strong things. A big time defensive player, Riley Lampman, just a defensive spark, just brings a completely different level of energy to the game. Logan Elliott, another sophomore. Peyton Murphy, another sophomore. I'll even maybe throw a freshman name out there. Madison Davis. Those are all some players that I think you're going to see some time throughout the course of the year that have the ability to step in and contribute right away. Not necessarily just role players. We're still young. I'm not going to say that we're not still young with a lot of sophomores and juniors, but the young kids have talent. So we're on an upswing.
Coach, you brought up this conference, and it's a gauntlet in the MVAC grades here. I mean, two of those teams went into regionals last year with Liberty and Garfield, but then you have Crestview to deal with, Brookfield, Champion. They were all this really, really good programs. What's it going to be like going through it, and how do you kind of see yourselves in the picture of the MVAC?
The league is extraordinarily difficult. A lot of those teams, if you look at them on paper, a lot of those teams did extremely well, and most of those teams that did extremely well really didn't lose a whole lot. Brookfield, for example, made it to the district final last year. Bring back the majority of their core. I'd say they probably bring back 7 of their top 8, or maybe 6 of their top 8. Sophia Hook, obviously a fantastic player. Liberty, I don't know. They graduated maybe a couple here or there. They bring back the core of their team with the Watson girl, Sienna Smith, the Foster girl. Champion, another one, was really kind of a youthful team last year. They graduated some people, but they've got some really strong young kids that are going to play for them as well. Crestview is certainly on an upswing. I'm not sure Crestview really graduated anything, to be totally honest with you. I would have to look at their roster. I'd probably remember a couple names if I looked at it, but another really strong team. Garrettsville, a team that made it to the district last year as well. Really an outstanding freshman class. I can see some of those kids stepping in and playing right away and contributing. So the league is really just kind of chock full of teams top to bottom. I hope that we'll be more competitive this year. I preach to the girls, be the team that is difficult to beat on any given night, and really go out. And I see us becoming more competitive than we've been in the past. So I like that aspect. We've been trying to stress the competitive nature, that every single possession is an individual competition. There's a winner, there's a loser, and the kids are grasping that. So I think we'll put up a lot more fight this year, and hopefully be the team that is difficult to beat on any given night. But with our league, you better show up on every single night, because you're going to be playing against a really good team. And I even throw out, LeBray. They've got some really young, talented kids. I know they graduated quite a bit. Campbell, they're on an upswing as well. Coach Children's doing a really fantastic job down there with those kids, and they're on an upswing. So really, every team you play against in the league this year is going to be an interesting night.
Hey, so you have to deal with all those teams, but I know Newton Falls also never shies away from a non-conference schedule this year.
No, we do not.
Who are some teams that pop up outside of your conference this year?
Oh my goodness. Southeast is kind of a nearby school to Newton Falls here. They always have an outstanding team. We're actually doing a boy-girl doubleheader with them this year on a Friday night, so that would definitely be an exciting evening. Lakeview, there's another school that we typically play, that we usually have a pretty significant battle with. And then, non-league teams after that. We recently picked up JFK, and I don't know if people are familiar with JFK or not, but we got to see them once over the summer, where they got size, they got some kids that can shoot it. I think JFK might be a Division IV school, which is unusual for us to have a D4 team on our schedule, to be totally honest. But they've got some kids that can really play over there at JFK. Some other ones that probably come into mind off the top of my head. I'm kind of drawing a blank at this point. Harding, obviously, always very talented. But yeah, non-league schedule is no slouch, that's for sure.
All right,
so blank at the moment.
So you've also brought up some new players that you bring in, and last year it was a lot of youth as well. So one of my questions for you is, because you've been doing this for a while, when you bring in a freshman or bring in someone that wants to join your program, first impressions have to be so important for you and for them to kind of trust what you're saying. What are some things that you want them to know right off the jump about you, your coaching staff, and the kind of the philosophy and culture you have in Newton Falls?
Wow, good question. The first thing that's going to come to mind when you come to our practice is we're going to say two things: defense wins games, but rebounding wins championships, and that's going to be the two biggest emphasis. If you're in my practice, you're going to hear about the defensive intensity, and you're going to hear about rebounding. I don't care what drill we're doing, offensive drill, defensive drill, rebounding is part of that drill every single possession. And if you don't, if you get kids that decide to take a play off and you're not going to go rebound the ball, you're going to hear about it right away. So defense wins games, rebounding wins championships. Offense will put some people in the stands here or there, but those two things are going to get you additional possessions, and they're going to definitely win you some games and win you some championships. So those first and foremost. The next thing that you're probably going to get from me is I don't do lazy. I won't be the most enthusiastic one in the gym. I refuse to be that, and I'm pretty high energy. But the girls have to be high energy as well, because I can never be the one that has the most excitement in the gym. And I really don't deal with lazy. Give me effort, give me enthusiasm, and everything else is just going to be icing on the cake.
How much do you test them on that and really bring the enthusiasm to see if they can match you?
I test them every single day, because I'm pretty high energy. I'm pretty high energy in the classroom, and I'm pretty high energy in the gym as well. So I'm usually typically pretty wore out by the end of the day, if I'm being honest.
Coach, before we let you go, I want to let you give a shout out to your coaching staff and kind of introduce them and what they bring to the program as well. You got great ones.
Yeah, in the junior high level, I'm excited. I got one of my former players, Kayla Brecka. Brecka is probably a name you've heard. I've had all the Brecka sisters here at the school, and she's recently gone to school to get her teaching certificate, and I'm ecstatic to have her. She is a natural at that level, and she enjoys the junior high level. So that's going to be that's a huge find for us. Another one of my former players, Marissa Tensing, is helping out at the junior high level. Brian Downing, Coach Downing's been with me now for probably 12, 13 years at the junior high level. And then my right hand man, Tony Hushauer. I actually consider him. I consider us at this point to be co-head coaches. One of us will typically take the defense, and one will take the offense. And I would really be lost without Coach Tony at this point, because he does so much for the team. There's so many things that I just don't have to worry about that I know get done, and I never even have to say those things. Coach Tony and I have been together now for probably, gee whiz, might be 14 years, and I think I'm going on year 19 or so here at Newton Falls. It's been a good 19 years, but I certainly couldn't have done it without those assistant coaches by any means.
19 awesome years. We're happy to be a part of this one, Coach. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and giving us a little bit of preview of the season. We look forward to covering you guys all year, and we also look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
All right. That was Coach Mark Baker of Newton Falls joining us on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. It gives you that really good preview of Newton Falls girls basketball this season. Like you said, plenty of reasons to think why they're going to be a very competitive team in that tough MVAC conference. A lot of youth, they kind of got their lumps, took their experience, but the caveat about that, when you do have that inexperience, you bring it back next year, and you're 1 year older, 1 year more experience, and that can make you a lot sharper of a team. So thank Coach Baker for his time. We're also going to talk to Matt Britton of Cardinal Mooney in boys soccer a little bit later at 1:30 on today's show. But before we get there, one of the things we have to do is we have to recap the weekend, right? We have to go through these playoff scores from both football, volleyball, and soccer. We had teams fighting for spots in state. We had football teams fighting for their spot in regionals. So we'll go over the football scores first, and the first score we have, Ursuline getting the win over Talmadge, 45-28. This Ursuline offense continues to just run. A little bit of a slow start for Ursuline, if you do say so, but the second half, they kicked it into high gear, and they really just were too much for Talmadge to handle, especially in the second half. The playoffs so far, Ursuline has been a second half team. Last week they were only up 16-6 at halftime, a little bit of a slow start in round one, a little bit of a slow start here too, and then they kicked it into high gear in the second half, 45-28. I'm sure Coach Reardon wants to try to find a way to be a little bit more right on the, get out right on the jump and start off hot, because eventually slow starts could catch up to you, especially the further you go into playoffs, but didn't catch up to them this week. They win 45-28 over Talmadge. They will move on to the regional semifinals. Another team that moved on is West Branch. Got a little bit of a fight from Struthers. The Wildcats were one of the hottest teams in the Ysn family coming into this week, and they definitely gave them their all. But at the end of the day, West Branch's offense just way too much to handle. Drew DeShields did everything he wanted to do with his offense, 54-35. The Warriors got the win. You can hear from Drew and Boston Molinix. Both post-game interviews are on the story for West Branch's win on ysnlive.com. You can also find them on our YouTube page. If you're watching on our YouTube right now or watching on Twitter or Facebook, whatever you're watching on, you can comment. But you can also head over and check out those interviews after the show is over. Next score we have for you is Beaver Local. They fell on a back-and-forth barn burner with Canton South, 56-48. I got to tell you, if someone came to me Friday afternoon, when we were talking about this game with me and Ty, and they said Canton South was going to win this game, I would say, okay, if they're going to win, it's going to be like 28-24, 30-27. It's going to be one of those ones where Canton South really has to hold Beaver Local's offense a little bit in check, not stop them, because the way they're playing, you're not going to stop them. But, the way the last week's game went with Canton South, 28-21 over Salem, I figured that, they would have to be one of those games where they scored enough to win, but they weren't blowing anyone out of the water with their offense. Well, hey, that's not how it went, because Canton South's offense, especially in the second half, really found a rhythm, did everything they wanted to. They couldn't stop Beaver Local, but it didn't matter because they scored 56 points. This was a back-and-forth game. Didn't seem like either defense could really make much of a stop. There were a couple of drives in the fourth quarter, though, where 3-and-outs or stops were made. Big stops for both defenses, which kind of stopped this game from getting into the 60s, which would have been even more miraculous. But overall, yeah, these teams, it was an offensive gun show. What can you say? Canton South gets the last laugh. But Beaver Local did what they always do, which is score really fast and score at a high clip. A couple of turnovers kind of probably shifted momentum. But 56-48 Canton South does get the win over Beaver Local. And you could call it upset. They went to Beaver Local. They got the win. So now Canton South moves on to the next round. Next game we have is their next opponent. 26-20, Jefferson goes into Arrowhead Stadium in Girard and beats Girard after losing to them in the regular season. This was an impressive game for Girard because really they had control of it. They were up 26-13. Girard scores a late touchdown to make it a little bit closer, but they would have had to have an onside kick, and they would have had to have something miraculous to go their way to win this game. Really, Jefferson defensively controlled the ball, controlled the line of scrimmage, and their offense, this has kind of been their motto all season. They don't blow people away by scoring a ton of points, but they find ways to score in big situations. Grant Hitchcock hit an amazing corner of the end zone throw. They gave them that 2-score lead. This was just an offense for Jefferson that did enough, made the big plays when they needed big plays, and that's what they continue to do. They did it against Poland. They only scored 14 points in that game, but they were big moment points. They were down, they scored, and they made it 14-13, and then they just let their defense go to work. I think this is going to be Jefferson's motto in the next round, and if they win in the next round, to win games in the playoffs, they're going to be this kind of offense that controls the ball, makes some big plays here and there, definitely gets their scores, but they're going to be a team that wins with their defense. Their defense has been doing a lot, especially this postseason. They gave up 13 to Poland, 20 to Girard. Great defensive effort. You could argue 13 points for most of the game against Girard, a garbage time touchdown that Girard tried to kind of get their way back in the game. But for the most part of the latter end of this game, it was 26-13. So this defense did a really good job stopping a Girard offense that was coming off a 30-point performance in round one against a respectively really good Hubbard defense as well. So this is a really, really good performance by Jefferson. They continue this historic run. Coach Hanna made a great Facebook post earlier where he was like, this time last year we were making plans about this year, and now here we are making a game plan for the regional semifinals. These seniors have kind of bought into his philosophy, bought into his game plans, and that's why they're winning like they are. South Range, they made a statement. They beat the G-Men 49-10. This is kind of what South Range has done in the playoffs so far this year in the first two rounds. They just kind of taken the team's biggest shot. Garfield came out, scored first, was up 3-0. Nothing after that. It was just South Range's night. Everything kind of went the Raiders' way, and they kind of steamrolled right into the regional semifinals. Kind of proved why a lot of people are talking about South Range this year. As soon as Kirtland moved out of Division 6, a lot of people looked at South Range and said, well, you were the team that, played Kirtland in the regional finals the last couple of years. So maybe with Kirtland out, you could kind of punch your way into the state. And they've kind of just rolled the way people thought they would. They've done everything that's been expected of them. It's got to be hard to be a South Range Raider football player because so much is expected of you with the success they've had in the last, 6-7 years. But they just keep kind of trucking on. They get the big win over Garfield 49-10. They will move into the regional semifinals. The first playoff loss, they came in as a final 21-14. Fitch loses to St. Vincent St. Mary. This is a game that Fitch's defense really did play really well. Their offense just couldn't make that, step on their throat to not get too violent. But, that play that you need to put a team away. They were up 14-7 for a while. They just couldn't make that. I mean, they score one more touchdown, the game's over. I don't think St. Vincent St. Mary comes back from down 21-7. with the way they were playing. But, they tied the game up at 14, and then the dams just broke. And that's the best way to put it. All of a sudden, a couple of big runs for St. Vincent St. Mary put them right in the red zone, and they were able to just kind of they were kind of pushing around a really tired defensive line from Fitch. They worked really hard all night to slow down this offense. They couldn't make that one more stop that they needed. And credit to St. Vincent St. Mary's defense. They did a really good job slowing down a very high-powered Fitch offense to get the win. Cheney, they also fall to Kinston 31-7 in just one of those nights. One of those nights we knew Kinston was a good football team, and it was one of those nights where just things did not go Cheney's way, and one thing turned into a next, and it kind of snowballed. I've said this before. I'll say it again, especially in playoffs, when you're dealing with teenagers, sometimes when you get tight and you want to win so bad, one mistake can really quickly snowball into a bunch of them. And I feel like this game just snowballed away from Cheney really quick because they felt the tightness of wanting to win this game or being expected to win this game. And it just kind of got away from them because the tighter you are, the more likely mistakes are going to be made. And I felt like watching the game when I got the chance to watch, scrolling through the games, keeping our scoreboard up to date on ysnlive.com. Every time I popped in, it just felt like Cheney was just a little tight, a little, when you're trying not to make a mistake, that's usually when the mistakes come. And that's what it felt like for Cheney, 31-7. They fall to Kinston. On the other end of that Division 3, though, Canfield did not miss any beats. They beat Aurora, a pretty good Aurora football team, 42-14. They will roll into the next round rather easily. Mooney, they had another battle. They win 24-17 over Norwayne. They punched their ticket into the regional semifinals next week against South Range. And that's a matchup that's going to be talked about a lot on YSN for the next week. So we will have plenty of time to talk about Mooney football. But let's go into Mooney football, right? Let's go into the boys soccer head coach, Matt Britton. Such a good friend of the show. We're so glad that we're able to get him on. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, no problem, Anthony. Thank you for having me out.
I guarantee no one in the Youngstown area is having as good of a Monday as you are. I mean, you got to be ecstatic. This was a team that we talked to you before the season started, and it felt you could already feel the hunger of this team to get back to this point after what happened last year. How did you guys, first question, how did you guys kind of maintain the course throughout a really tough schedule again and keep that drive and hunger throughout the whole season to get yourselves to this point?
Well, yeah, like you said, it was a grueling schedule that we faced. But like I said, the previous interview, we like to play that tough schedule. So no matter who we face in the playoffs, we're always prepared. And we've had a motto throughout the team that's been through, preseason, it was jobs not finished. After every single game, it'd be jobs not finished. So everyone's just focused on giving everything they have for each other for that game at hand. And as soon as that's over, we're looking on to the next game.
So sometimes when you have that, that hunger to get back to where you were 2 years ago, teams can fall into the trap of looking ahead. How did you guys avoid that in these district tournaments and some of these games where you guys had to take care of business before you even got to this regional final?
Yeah, there is the prototypical trap game that everyone falls into. But that goes back to just the focus that we've put in. It's the detail that we go through practice, everything we focus. We don't even talk about the next game's coming up. It's always the opponent that we have at hand. So that kind of limits us from hopefully tripping up on an opponent because we just focus on what we have in front of us.
All right, let's talk about this game against Beechwood on Saturday because talk about hunger. Beechwood was hungry too. They hadn't been to that spot in a while. They wanted to kind of get back to that spot. Program on the rise in Beechwood. And you look at this game, especially the first half, very defensive to the count that we got, only 5 shots on goal the whole first half. You guys kind of felt each other out and then scored like this, boom, boom, twice in 2 minutes in the second half. What were some adjustments you made against this Beechwood defense that was really pressing really well, especially in the first half?
Beechwood, they were a phenomenal team. They were well deserving of being in the regional final. That they showcased their qualities during the game. But it's funny you said they haven't been there in a while. The last time they were there, they defeated my previous school, Maplewood. They beat us to get to the regional final back in 2015. So it was kind of I wanted a little bit of revenge there for that game. So that was a little extra motivation on my part. Never told the boys about that part. I kept that to myself. But yeah, the first half. Well, first off, the weather was absolutely dreadful. The wind, I think some people were saying it was like 30, 45 mile per hour wind gusts. I mean, the wind was absolutely brutal to play against. So one of the things we did tactically in the first half is when we won the coin toss, we wanted to go against the wind in the first half. So we wanted to give Beechwood the win. So if worst case scenario, we had to chase the game, we weren't playing against the wind going into the second half. So we were able to see through the first half because that win was brutal. You could, I mean, I was even talking to the Ottawa Hills coach, we're going to play here, and they experienced the same conditions. So once we got into the second half, when we had the wind at our backs, we were able to settle down. We were able to link play up a little bit. And like you said, we were just able to settle everything down. And, we sliced right through them. I think it was 2 goals, 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And then your defense in the second half, obviously the wind has something to do with it, but I don't think, once again, our reporters kind of said like they never really got past the half field mark. I mean, they could not get into their offensive attack at all. Props to your defense for that, but how much of a focus do you guys put on that defense? I think a lot of people talk about your goal scorers, rightfully so. How much focus do you guys really do put on stopping teams from being able to do what they want to do as well?
Oh, that's a huge factor in what we do. Because, I mean, if you look at it, we've only conceded 14 goals this season. 5 of them came against Western Reserve Academy in a game which, most of our starters sat out. We agreed to play that as a second team game. So really that's 9 goals over, 21 games. I mean, that's pretty incredible in itself. And I think we've kept 15 clean sheets. So again, I mean, the defensive, input by the boys is absolutely incredible, the work rate. But a lot of that comes from, we talk about our practice. A lot of that comes through our midfield, our midfield 3. If our midfield 3 wins the battle and we're able to control the tempo, we're able to set the pace. I mean, that just alleviates a whole bunch of, because that just leaves Tony, Dante, Will, Gabe. They just clean everything up after that.
As I've been learning more and more about soccer over the last year that I've been running this show, we've talked to a couple of midfielders from other teams, and you start to get that they're kind of the position that doesn't get a lot of the limelight. They don't get the stats per se. They just do the dirty work. Like you said, they move the ball to their scores on offense, and then they do a really good job on defense. Talk about your middle fielders and how they kind of embrace that mentality of doing the dirty work that doesn't maybe get noticed by the stat keepers.
Well, yes, the midfield it's a very, especially the system that we play. It's I don't want to say unrewarding, but, they don't get the limelight that they should. I mean, that starts with our senior captain, Patrick D'Ambrosio, who plays as our center holding mid. I mean, and he's just a rock in there. He cleans up everything. He breaks up opponents' attacks. He's the one we actually play the ball through to be able to switch it from side to side. And his ability to just control the middle field allows the 2 other midfielders, Dominic Graziano and Alex LaPlante, to push forward to join the attack. And then once they get in there, I mean, their link-up play is incredible. Both of them are exceptionally skilled players, and just just their ability to link up with the front 3, has made us the threat that we are going forward.
Let's talk about this next matchup coming up on Wednesday at 7:00 against Ottawa Hills in Sandusky. They played there before. That was actually the site of their regional semifinal, I believe, against United. So there's kind of don't want to say a home field advantage, but definitely a little bit of familiarity with that facility. What have you seen from Ottawa Hills? What do they bring to the table? What makes them so good, obviously, to get into the state semifinals? And what challenges are they gonna put on you guys?
Oh, we are quite familiar with Ottawa Hills. We played them already this season. We defeated them 2-0. We played them in the state semifinals in 2020. We beat them 1-0. I mean, it's just an incredible program. Coach Brian over there has done a great job keeping them consistent throughout. And they're exceptionally talented. They've got quite a few players who are very dangerous. They've got a center forward, Alex Duran, who just scores goals at will. They've got a center mid and Adam Ayad, who can feed the ball to them. I mean, we just got to limit their skill players, and that's what we did the first time we played them. So I've been watching film, seeing if they've changed much of how we played since our first encounter. It looks similar, so we'll see if we're able to take advantage of the issues that we found in their defense the first game.
Very interesting when you play a team that you've already played in the regular season. Obviously, both teams have changed a bit since that point. You've had a lot of growth. They've had a lot of growth. How much do you balance trying to learn from that film and also trying to realize that both teams are different now than they were back then, and not trying to do everything that film kind of teaches you?
Oh yeah, we're both completely different teams since then. I think our first encounter was back in middle of September. It's almost a month and a half since we've played. We've played 17 games since then. I think they've played 16. So we've basically played a whole season since the last time we've played each other. We just like to look and see the characteristics. A lot of the characteristics, like the fundamental buildup of their team play, will not change. Because I know technically ours really hasn't either. We play the same way, but we make minor adjustments here or there. But the fundamentals of how we play, is still prevalent from our first game there, and theirs will be this as well.
One thing I want to talk about your players in is their work in the school, because man, you look at these grades, and I think you have seven players that are in the top 10 for academics in their class. I mean, just an incredible hardworking team inside the school system. What does that do for you as a coach? I mean, you almost don't have to worry about making sure they're in class and doing their work in the school.
No, I mean, I'm incredibly blessed with, intelligent players. I think, we've all 9 of my seniors this year qualified for the Senior Academic All-American Award. Our team GPA was a 4.07, which is just absolutely incredible. I mean, we have two seniors that are battling the valedictorian, 2 juniors who will be valedictorians. I mean, so I maybe even thought we might have the valedictorian on the soccer team for the next 3 years. So just their mental capacity is just phenomenal. So it makes implementing new systems so much easier because I know that they're smart enough to understand concepts.
Yeah, that was my next question. How much do you see kind of the book IQ and the school IQ translate into soccer IQ on this team?
Oh, it does. I mean, it takes them a minute because then you have to correlate the muscle response to it.
Right.
But once they're able to process it a lot quicker, so it makes it much easier to implement new systems, new tactics. So I mean, where some schools might have to go over for 3 days, we only have to do it for an hour in a practice, and it's basically like we've run it the whole season.
And this is a question that really just popped in my mind, because when coaches from colleges that are known for academics question, sometimes they say their athletes can be a little bit paralyzed by analysis because they're so smart. They kind of overthink things and things like that. You ever run into anything like that where they're overthinking stuff and you have to kind of tell them just to go react to stuff, or is it always is that not an issue with this team?
No, that's an issue. I think any coach will realize that's an issue when we overthink things. You can look at some of our early season playoff games. I think it took us 20 minutes before we scored against Conneaut. It took us, 15 minutes before we scored against Maplewood because, we were just trying to overthink how to play instead of just going out and, doing what we do best. And even the last few games you look at, it took us 10, 15 minutes before we got it going against Whitcliffe and about 20 minutes before we got it going against Beechwood because we just overthought everything. The moment we settled down and started to control and play how we normally play, we just get going from there.
All right, Coach. Weather looks a little bit better on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have to deal with those 30-mile-an-hour winds.
I hope not.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this run. We wish you the best of luck on Wednesday. Maybe we can get you on again if you win to talk about a state championship.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to be back. Hopefully that's the case. I'll look to book it for Thursday or Friday.
Let's just book it ahead of time and just say you're coming on. And then we'll just do that. And hopefully you guys win. We wish you the best of luck. We look forward to seeing how much you guys can succeed there. And we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, wait. Coach Niddle wanted me to give you a shout out because he says he knows you pretty well. So Gary Niddle wanted me to make sure that he knows that he's rooting for you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Old teacher from high school.
All right. Coach, thank you so much again.
All right. Thank you.
That is Matt Britton, the head coach of that Mooney soccer team that there was like one of those, if you know, coming into this season where like we knew there was a pretty good chance that they would be in the spot they are with the way that program was talking, the way Coach Britton was talking before the season, the way last season ended. They kind of they felt like they had something special last year. They fell a little bit short to Crestview, who went to the state championship game. They brought back a lot of parts. It just kind of felt like there was one of those wink, wink, nudge, nudge moments for this Mooney team who went to the state, went to the state tournament 2 years ago. So these players know how to play in this atmosphere. They've played teams like Ottawa Hills. Their schedule is loaded with teams that you would see that caliber in the state tournament. So this team, we're kind of not surprised that they're where they're at, especially with the players they've been able to bring on. And now what we are, so I mean, the academics is what's really been like, whoa. That's why I had to ask him about the schoolwork that these kids put in, because when I heard that, they have valedictorians for days on this team. It was just it's amazing. It's amazing that they can put that much time into soccer to be at this level, and then also put that much time into their schoolwork, and then also somehow maintain a normal teenage social life that you have to kind of have to function as a high school student, because we know if you don't have that, your mental health will kind of, suffer as well. So the way they're able to juggle all that has always been amazing to me. Every time I see an athlete that also has a 4.0 or higher GPA, I'm less like, how do you do it? I didn't even play high school sports in high school, and I didn't have a GPA above 3. So it just is one of those things that amazes me that athletes are able to put in that kind of work. So congratulations to Mooney on making it to the state semifinals. Wednesday at 7 and Sandusky at Perkins High School versus Ottawa Hills. They are not the only soccer team we have playing in the state tournament. We'll talk about that. We'll also finish going over the football scores and all that and more coming up next after this first break on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm attorney Mark Hanai, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanai judge. Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanai, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanai for judge.
Hi, this is Zell Bush.
Hi, this is Tom Clint. Hi, this is Steve Rossetto.
Hi, this is Ryan Miller.
Hi, this is Rich Sakui from WRS Wealth Advisors.
With our combined 80 years of experience,
WRS Wealth Advisors are the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services.
Or visit WRSwealth.com.
Go Raiders.
Go Dogs.
Go Cats. Go Dogs. Go Tigers.
Jimmy Sudman here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
Reliability, innovation, scale. These three values are those we look forward to in our business and in our team. If you're ready for a reliable employer who looks constantly to think outside the box in big ways, we're ready for you. Apply now. Help us push the envelope and deliver success. Envelope 1. Take that one extra step.
Winter, spring, summer, and fall, Mill Creek Metro Parks is your park for all seasons. Make a memory in the park. Plan your visit today at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside nobody. I don't know why I'm so used to saying alongside. I got to get out of that. But we are here on this Monday episode, and we are continuing our recap of the weekend. We want to thank Coach Britton and Coach Baker for both giving us their time today and coming on the show. But now we have to get back to our football recap and some of the final scores that came across the scene on Friday night in the playoffs. We ended with Mooney going up against Norway and winning 24-17. That football team does enough to win again. Their defense is so good. Their offense has really found ways to get a rhythm in this playoffs. You know, they obviously did what they did against Edison's really good defense, and then they went into Norway and they scored, enough to win. That's just the end of the story. They scored enough to win 24 points, and they'll come back and they'll play South Range in the regional semifinals. That game will be on Friday in Girard. It's going to be a good one in Arrowhead Stadium against two teams that I don't believe have ever played each other. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they've ever played each other in football. I would be hard pressed to find a time. Not in my. I mean, I went to South Range. I never remember us playing Mooney when I was there. So that would have to date back to, I started my schooling at South Range, 1997. So, it would have to predate 97. Just don't remember those two teams playing each other. So they'll meet each other in the regional semifinals, though, on Friday night in Girard. Next final to come up is United taking one on the chin to Kirtland, 48-6. And look, we all know how good Kirtland is. We all know what Kirtland's football program is all about. I kind of went over Coach the Tigers' stats and his kind of career milestones that he has on Friday. He has some country, not just state, but like when it's most in the country or tied for third in the country. Those type of numbers for Kirtland's head coach. But you watch this game, and it was because United, their first three drives especially, they really pushed Kirtland. They moved the ball. Their first three drives all got into the red zone inside the 20, and they ended in a field goal, and a blocked field goal. So you look at those and you say, well, if United finishes those drives 21 in three drives against Kirtland, that would have been something else. But, you can move the ball against the Hornets when you have 70 yards of work to do. United did a really good job with the inside routes that would kind of cut through the middle of the field. And then when Kirtland would squeeze inside, they just hit an outside route. I think the receivers for United did a really good job at their route running and being really disciplined routes. But when you shrink the field and you say we only have like 20, probably 30 if you had the 10 yards in the end zone, yards to work with, that's where it gets really hard to do stuff against this Kirtland defense. They don't have to defend the whole field. And that's when they obviously made their money, stopping United every time they got into the red zone. And the fourth downs, and then you could say you can't settle for field goals, but because of some unfortunate plays on third down, I believe the first two fourth downs where they were both field goals were both fourth and, unmanageable. It would have been really tough to make those fourth down conversions. And then, of course, the field goal that got blocked, that was a crazy round of events because Kirtland blocked a field goal. Then they picked it up, they ran it for a touchdown. There was a big, not 30 minutes. It felt like 30 minutes, but it wasn't 30 minutes. It was probably like 10, 15-minute discussion between the referees. Then cops came on the field, so something police-related happened at the same time because the cameras panned over past the referees and saw a couple of police officers walking on the field. So something police happened in the middle of this conversation. They talked for a long time. Apparently there was an inadvertent whistle right before the block. And there was also a penalty on Kirtland. But the whistle made that just a dead ball. They went and they were going to re-kick the field goal. And then United had to delay a game that pushed them back further. And then Kirtland blocked the next field goal. So it was a crazy sequence of events down there. It would have been, I think Kirtland at that time was up 22-6. So the field goal would have made it 22-9. But every time that Kirtland got the ball, they just went down and scored. It was almost to a point where maybe that was the point when United could have decided that we can't settle for field goals no matter how long fourth down is. Maybe not. You can have that debate, but like I said, especially the first three drives, United's offense really did a quality job at moving the ball and maybe made a blueprint for some teams that have a little bit more skill set to finish red zone drives. I don't know. They definitely did a couple of things really well that pushed Kirtland's defense. I'll tell you that much. Until the second half. The second half, Kirtland's defense made a lot of adjustments, and I don't think United moved the ball much at all in the second half. But for their first three drives, again, all three of them got into the red zone, and they just couldn't finish those drives. They had to settle for 3 field goals, and the last one was blocked. So I thought it was a valiant effort from United. I think, like I said, I think they did more than they did more than a lot of people probably thought they did against the Hornets. And I bet the Hornets walked away from that game saying, okay, United's no joke. United came in and they punched us in the mouth a couple of times on offense. And if we made one mistake down there in the red zone, that game could have been a real back and forth battle in the first half. So props to United on a great season. They were not intimidated from Kirtland. You could tell that. And, we congratulate them. We love covering them all year. And we look forward to basketball because a lot of those guys will take the hardwood and shine on that floor come fall. Brookfield took one on the chin to Dalton, and this was a team in Dalton that was moving up from Division 7 to Division 6. Didn't matter. They were the host seed, and they kind of took it to the Warriors 26-3. Their defense won that game. A defensive battle did not go Valley Christian's way. 10-6. This was just a weird football game. A lot of sloppiness, a lot of penalties on both sides. The referees were calling everything, it seemed like, every little thing that happened. The referee said, we saw it. We're gonna call that flag. If you see it, you call it. So I'm not, and it was consistent. So I'm not saying that was a bad thing on the referee's part. It was just one of those games where you felt like real ticky-tack. They were going to be a close watching officiating team and calling really everything they saw. And Valley Christian just couldn't find a rhythm. Their defense did their job, but they fall 10-6 to Cuyahoga Heights. Lowville falls to Lucas 35-25. And when we talked about this game on Friday, I was very adamant to be careful of this Lucas team that knows how to win in the playoffs. They've done it before. They've won in the playoffs. They've knocked out our teams deep in playoff rounds before. This Cubs team, they might have been a 5-win team this year as far as their record goes in the regular season. But there are some programs that once the playoffs click open, they know how to win. They know how to do it. I said on Friday you got to be careful, and then you come in on Monday and it's like, well, they did enough to beat Lowville. And one of the things they did really well, they controlled the clock. They never passed the ball. It was run. And when you have an offense like that and you're finishing drives with scores, eats the clock and keeps Vinny Balone on the sidelines for as much as possible. You had that with a couple of drives that didn't go Lowville's way. Lowville still scored 25 points. They still had offensive movement in the game. It wasn't like they were shut down. But, you control the clock. 25 isn't enough when you don't have the time to do it. All of Lucas's drives were long, sustained, and then finished with scores. And that's what Lucas needs to do to win. Obviously, they can't get into a shootout. They can't, find a play from behind mentality. But if you let them get ahead and then you let them finish those long drives with touchdowns, you can be in some serious trouble. And that's what happened to the Rockets. But what a season for Lowville. They kind of had the goal. They wanted to win a playoff game. They did that. They broke some records. Vinny Malone broke a lot of records. So a great season for the Rockets to build this football program. Probably one of the best seasons they've had in program history. First playoff appearance is 1999. So Lowville, strong performance, strong season. We loved covering them. And congratulations on a great year for the Rockets and all the members of that team that we will also see on the hardwood come the winter. Southern Local got the win 42-22 over Norwalk St. Paul. Thought this game would be closer. I thought Norwalk St. Paul, who's another team that has a playoff pedigree, would come in with a little bit of fight, but Southern put them down and won by 20 pretty handedly. They'll move on to play next week against JFK. And now this game went the way we thought it would. A slugfest with Springfield. Maybe not as much scoring as we thought, but 13-6, JFK gets the win. Their defense won this game, and their offense did enough to win. So 13-6, JFK wins. They'll match up with Southern. That'll be a real interesting matchup in the next round of the playoffs. So those are your football scores from the weekend. We'll go real quick into the soccer scores over the weekend as well, because we had several soccer teams matching up with each other. We had Poland in the girls regional final. They fell 2-1 in overtime. And then Canfield lost in their regional semifinal 2-0. Those are both girls soccer scores. Wellsville volleyball lost to Monroeville for the third time in 4 seasons in the regional tournament. That was 3-1, the final score there, 3-1. And then a Howland soccer, they got the win over CVCA to punch their ticket into the state championship. 2-1 was the final score there. Jack Kinney scores both goals for the Tigers. So we have Howland in the state semifinals. We have Mooney in the state semifinals. That is Division 2 for Howland, Division 3 for Mooney. They'll both play Wednesday night. Howland's playing somewhere I never heard of. Clear Fork in Belleville is where they're going to play their game at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. I'd never heard of that. I'd have to look it up, see where Clear Fork is. But the Tigers are going to be in the state semifinal again. They've been there a lot. Mooney's been there a lot. So 2 of our powerhouse and tradition-based soccer teams make it to the Final Four. And so that'll kind of do it for the weekend roundup. That's all we had for the weekend, and it's just in time to wrap up this show, because that'll do it for today's episode. Power Hour will have you from 3 to 4 today, and then tomorrow I'll be back from 1 to 2. We're gonna hit the bricks running with more basketball previews tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday before we get to the Friday football preview, because we have a lot of basketball coaches to kind of get to, and the season is a week from Friday. The girls basketball season starts, and the next week boys basketball season starts. So we are 2 weeks away. This is the 2-week stretch of the basketball preseason kind of season previews. We have a lot of them. Some of them are going to be played. Some of them are going to be live on the show. As for tomorrow live on the show, let me pull up our schedule so I can promote who we're going to have live. Tomorrow we will lead off the show with Coach Glucinic from South Range Boys Basketball. He'll be on live at 1 o'clock, and then we'll have a couple of other basketball previews we can play for you tomorrow as well. On Wednesday, live on the show at 1:15, we'll have David Krisman, the head coach of the Columbiana girls basketball team. And then on Thursday at 1:15, we will have Coach Josh Upshire from the Badger boys basketball team live on the show. So those are the live interviews we have, but we have done plenty pre-recorded ones as well that we're going to play for you this week. So that's what to look forward to the next 3 days. And then Friday, me and Ty will come back and we'll preview the football matchups of the weekend, and we'll get you loaded for the playoffs. So that's what the week kind of looks like on Running Point. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll see you tomorrow from 1 to 2. Power Hour has you set up in about an hour from 3 to 4.